My name is Matthew Florida, and I am the Vice President of Finance for the Black Student Union.
And I'm Katie Lucky Hurd, the President of the Tulane Black Student Union.
On behalf of the Black Student Union, formerly known as African American Congress of Tulane, I would like to welcome you all to our 41st Annual Black Arts Festival featured speaker. The Black Arts Festival is an annual event sponsored by the African American Congress of Tulane, established in
a major national political campaign, that of Al Gore in the national elections of 2000. Ms. Brazille also served as a lecturer at the University of Maryland, College Park, and a fellow at Harvard University's Institute of Politics. Author of the best-selling memoir, Cooking with Grease, Stirring the Pots in American Politics, she's an adjunct professor at Georgetown University, a syndicated newspaper columnist for United Media, an on-air contributor for CNN.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Someone should have told you guys this is not March Madness, and that's all right. I'm going to just pretend that this is a Catholic church, and I'll speak to everybody in the pews. But thank you all for coming tonight. I know you had many things that you could do with your time. March Madness, as I mentioned. And in fact, some of you probably know that do what I normally do on CNN following the presidential address. I'll sum up my own analysis of what the president said and perhaps give you my own thinking as to what we should do now. But it's a great pleasure to be on this campus, and of course it's a great honor to be here to celebrate Women's History Month. We celebrate Women's History Month because women are making history each and every day. And it's our history, as the President proclaimed in his proclamation, that is our strength as Americans. But did you also know that this is the United Nations? Nothing proves that like the current economic recession that is impacting our entire country, especially those who are already vulnerable. For high school dropouts, the unemployment rate is 13% greater than those who gained a high school diploma. Now, 13 points may not sound like a lot. However, unemployment in the black community is roughly double. That's twice what it is in the white community. This means about 1/3 of black high school dropouts are unemployed. Additionally, although unemployment is down slightly, joblessness remains high, especially in poor communities across the country. What's gripping about the importance of education is the way it changes our outlook on life. Sure, we can dream about being a Supreme Court justice or president, but we won't ever wear the robe or take oath of office if we can't read. We can hope to provide for our families, but we won't if we don't know how to budget. Now, there are many useless things that we learn in school. For example, when I was in high school, and that was a long time ago, I must tell you, we learned all of the state capitals. Now, for me, that has come in handy as I've put together campaigns all over the country. In fact, I've had the ability to work on 7 presidential campaigns, 56 congressional campaigns, 19 state and local campaigns, 48 states exactly. 2 more states, I would become Miss USA without the bikini. But I learned all these states' capitals when I was in school, and I got to know the state's history. And has served me well in organizing campaigns across the country. So why do I want to address education? Because education is the very foundation of good citizenship. And these days it is doubtful that any child may reasonably be expected to succeed in life unless he or she receive a good, decent education. Now, we have learned that education is expensive. Indeed it is, but ignorance is also very expensive. And our children deserve the right to see what they can become. They deserve the right to a future. And this is an issue of both fairness as well as equality. And education is one of those big issues for me because a person's zip code should not determine the right to a decent and good quality education. And all too often in society, where you're born determines where you'll end up. That's wrong. And it's wrong because it's fundamentally, morally wrong. And it's wrong because it's unproductive. Think about how much stronger our economy would be today if we had invested more money, additional dollars, into educating our citizens. And at a time when governors across this country are figuring out ways to balance the budget so that they can make ends meet, one of the first decisions they've made is to cut back on education. Well, tell me, how are you going to create jobs for the future if you don't educate your citizens? And how are you going to attract good businesses if you don't have an educated population? So education is one of those big issues. Like President of the United States, Jimmy Carter. And can you imagine the static he would have gotten today from some of his brothers and sisters? I can picture an associate walking into his lab saying, "Are you still messing with the peanut, George? What's wrong with you? It's a peanut, man. You think it was a chick. I think all those peanuts are making you nuts." But let me tell you, my friends, I give you that George Washington Carver example to let you know that if you're going to pursue your academic career, you're going to have to find the path that brings you most passion. You're going to have to find the path that will bring you success. But you're going to have to be very disciplined about it. And you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices just to get there. So I want to close with what I call my basic rules. My mother taught us that we had to have rules and we had to abide by the rules, and if we didn't abide by her rules, we could all leave the house. And you can imagine telling 9 children, if we didn't like her rules, to leave the house, what that meant. We followed her rules. So here are my new rules. Everyone must have access to basic tools like a good, decent, affordable, quality education. In order for us as a country to meet our basic needs and those of our family, education is paramount. Number 2, and this goes to those of us who want to engage in what I call the public pursuit of debate over the role of education. But I start with this premise: where you start off in life should not determine where you end up. And the other premise I start off with is the benefits and burdens of society should not depend on what we look like or where we come from. We should all have a say in the decisions that impact our lives. But we must make sure that education is on everyone's agenda, not just those at the top, but all throughout our society, that education becomes an issue that we all talk about and that we all believe in together. So fill the vacuum, become the change that you wish to see in the world, close the gap, and go outside the box to maintain critical funding for all our educational programs. Engage the public and fill the airwaves with substance, not just with noise. And I can tell you as a TV commentator, it is very difficult to fill the airwaves with substance when everyone else would like to have a superficial conversation about someone who is basically at an asterisk level on the national polls, but because they say something outrageous, we often have to respond to it. Finally, become an advocate. Don't leave it to others. Don't leave it to lobbyists. Don't leave it to someone else to speak up for you or to begin to define you or define your future. Use your voice and learn how to make a joyful noise. I believe we've arrived at a mountaintop moment because we have so much untapped power to make a difference, to see the road ahead and to get there together. We may have difficulties today, but I still believe that only by investing in early education will our children be able to have a productive future. We have to remain firm. We have to go out there each and every day believing that education will determine our future. But with a good education, we can determine the path ahead. As President Obama stated on that historic night when he won an election that no one believed would ever take place, he reminded us that this was our moment and that we had to seize it. He said that this is our time to put people back to work, to open up doors of opportunity for our kids, to restore prosperity, promote the cause of peace, and to reclaim the American dream for all people. President Obama, in my judgment, is the living embodiment of hope. Hope in a society that is still looking forward to a future. And in the budget that he has put forward, it has funding for education. It does not cut kids out of Head Start, nor will it force school districts to fire teachers. President Obama believes that we can do both things and continue to meet our financial obligations to reduce our debt while investing in those items that will help us win the future. So you're the generation that must become the change that we've been fighting for. You're the generation that will have to define the key issues of the future. And tonight I hope I made a case for education as being one of the issues that you will continue to pursue and one that you will continue to believe in. Let me remind you that with the proper education, we can build the America of the 21st century together. We can build it safer, stronger, and more educated. But this must be your mission. And I believe if you decide to make it your mission, we will win the future. So thank you so much, and I look forward to all your questions and comments, and as I said, being in Louisiana, all your recipes as well. God bless you. Thank you. It was the night after Dr. King was assassinated. On April 5th, it was a Friday, 1968. Like most kids at that age, we knew something bad had happened. The best we could learn that night was that he was killed. But what we didn't know that night and what we didn't learn until days later was that he was killed by someone who had sought him out for weeks. But what the assassin bullet did not do that evening was to kill our spirit, take away our joy. And so for little girls like myself growing up in Louisiana, New Orleans, Kenner was a segregated city. Many of us wanted to find a path to helping to right the wrongs that Dr. King sought to do in his life. And for me, I wanted to engage people in the political process by getting folks to register and vote. So there was a woman who lived on Taylor Street. I grew up on Fillmore Street out in Kenner. And Rosemary and Mina, Miss Phyllis and others, they went out to start getting people registered to vote. Of course, we had a goal. We wanted to elect a city council person that would build a playground in our community. And so for me, that was what I call two good reasons to get involved. One, I could help register people to vote, and that's what Dr. King stood for. And two, by electing a city council person, we could build a playground. We won that election. Pellerin Playground was built. I got my first job at the playground. I was coaching the little girls softball team. I was an assistant coach. Miss Minor was the coach. 7, 8, 9 years old. I was 9 years old. I got the habit really early. And as I mentioned, I've worked on campaigns throughout my life here. In 1976, Billy Gus campaign that led me to work on Jimmy Carter's campaign. I was a young kid working on that campaign. I was not yet even 18 years old, but I wanted to get involved in 1976. While working for Jimmy Carter, I was able to witness the convention in New York City where Barbara Jordan gave the keynote speech that inspired me. And I wrote my little diary and I put "Dear God" because as a Catholic I was afraid if I wrote it to the priest or the archbishop or the cardinal, the Lord might not have read it, so I would always write my diary to God. And I said, when I turn 40, I want to run a presidential campaign. You can imagine over the last 48 hours upon hearing the death of Geraldine Ferraro, I had a chance to work on her campaign. In fact, I was an organizer and advanced person in the 1984 campaign following my Stanton Jackson campaign. The reason why I've gotten involved in so many campaigns, not just as a political operative, but as somebody who's been on the Democratic National Committee. I'm vice chair of the Democratic Party. I've served on the Rules and Bylaws Committee. And one of the reasons why I got involved is because those of us who are in the game often can make the decisions. By being in the arena, you get an opportunity to play ball. By playing ball, you get an opportunity to score. And by scoring, you are able to bring home the victory to the communities and the people that you love and adore. And the reason why I got involved early on is because I saw the results of political activism. And I knew in the democracy that in order to make progress and to make change, you have to go out there and get an arena. Now, for women and minorities, I understand there's always a reluctance to get involved because, especially for women, we've always questioned whether or not we were qualified to run. We've questioned our own experience, our education background. Some of us have put off running for office until we've raised our families. Some of us are afraid that the political system naturally locks us out and we can't raise the money. The fact is, unless you go out there and try, and you put together the same tools that guys put together, building a network, increasing your name identification so that you're visible and viable as a potential candidate and leader, then you have an opportunity to go out there and to engage in a very spirited debate. And I have to tell you, the debates, they are a little toxic. I find myself from time to time, the punches get thrown at me. I get called just about everything under the sun. But my mother also taught me it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. So I try not to answer to people who I think say crazy things. But I love being in the arena. And it's important that you're in the arena, not just as a partisan, but you're in the arena to be effective. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, when Governor and gender, and sexual orientation, and age, and disability as factors in American life. So we have a long way to go, but we're the generation that we've been waiting for. My sister here can attest to it. My mother, she drilled in our head. Cheryl, Sheila, Donna, Tater, Ted, Lisa, Demetri, Kevin, Zola, get up! She actually said another adjective before get up. But we had to get up. And I can remember as a kid growing up that I might have missed like one day of school and 4 years of high school, maybe one day. You were really knocked down, dragged out sick. But then back then, in those days, every September, we got castor. So our bodies were healthy. And my mother used to tell us, waste not, want not. And they instilled in us the value of a good education. The other thing is that we did not look at TV all hours of the day and hours of the night. It's funny, but when I'm not on TV, I don't watch TV. I don't even know what's on. My little nephew is see, he's right. I don't even know what's. I was with friends this weekend. They say, Donna, you got to watch Bones. I had no idea. First time I ever saw Bones. House, because they have a DVR. I probably have a DVR also, but I don't use it because But my mother would always encourage us to read, and in fact, my younger brother and I would catch a bus from Kenner for a quarter and come all the way down to New Orleans Public Library. And we would get books. Because in Kenner we couldn't get, we wanted to read, I wanted to read Malcolm X speak. I got in trouble, but I still read it, To Kill a Mockingbird. I wanted to read all of those classics. And I wanted to debate somebody, so my brother would come with me and he would get books, and so we would debate for a week and then we got another quarter. But nowadays, you see kids out, you rarely see them with their parents in a library or in a bookstore. They're at a candy shop. They're out in the street until the street light comes on. And when we were kids, we had to be in the house before the street light came on. So that was our marker, to be inside. But before we went outside, we had to take off our good school clothes, put on our play clothes. But before we did that, we had to do our homework. So again, I think it's about parenting. We can't ask society to fill all of the gaps. If we provide the education, if we provide the resources, and we give schools and teachers what they need in order to instruct and teach our kids, then I think it's up to parents and the community to also stress education. And my friend, we have churches just about on every corner. And there's something that we're also missing in society. Once upon a time, people went to church so that they could hear God's word and try to fulfill God's mission. nowadays, they go to church so they can build a big auditorium and get more members. But I don't know if people have listened to God's word, or I don't know if the church has forgotten God and their messaging. But again, when we went to church, they also stressed the importance of education. So you know, that old African proverb that Hillary Clinton turned into a successful book, it takes a village, is true. And that's why all of us, we're all critical, we're all important. When I see young people, whether it's Teach for America, some of the other outstanding programs, going into inner cities, coming back to Louisiana, going into the Ninth Ward, willing to make a difference, willing to help educate and train and motivate the next generation, I applaud them. I think what they're doing, the sacrifice that they're willing to make, that's a sacrifice that we should all be willing to make on behalf of students all over this country. I teach at Georgetown on Wednesdays, my last campus. This month I've been to 5 campuses, including Southern University, New Mexico State University. And I have 2 more universities to go to within the next week. But I try to get on campuses 2-3 times a week, just so that I can spread the good news and perhaps leave back something that will give the next generation their roadmap ahead. Next question.